All right, so I'm gonna start with a poll just to wake everyone up a little bit. How many of you, I want you to put your marketer hat on, how many of you have marketing activities that are generally tied to driving revenue or something for the bottom line? Raise your hands. Only a few? Maybe people aren't awake yet. I'm sure it's more of you. Okay, so I want you to put that aside, and I want you to put on your consumer everyday hat. How many of you buy every single product or service you see an ad for? Hoping it's none. So do you see the disparity here? There's a lot of you that are tying revenue to ads, but you're not necessarily buying things off of an ad. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today is making sure that you're putting yourself in the shoes of the consumer, which will make your marketing efforts work a little bit harder for you. So we know that our consumers are living in an online world, and Google's mantra for advertisers is to be there and be relevant. And what that really means is to make sure that you're not only inserting yourself in that dialogue with consumers, but that you're making sure it's appropriate and you're providing the right context. In a very direct response-driven vertical like travel, we know you need bookings, we know you need revenue, but it's really crucial to understand what's relevant to the consumer so that they're not tone deaf to your marketing over time. And now, more than ever, it's critical for marketers to really understand what the consumer wants and stand for something. And in an ever-changing marketing landscape like we're living in today, you have even more opportunity to really tell that story across the best platform for the best consumer. Sounds simple, right? Not so much. So where to start? Well, the first piece to think about is your audience. Who are they? What motivates them? What are the things they're thinking about? For many travelers, the journey starts far before their booking. It starts when they're having one of those weeks at work or one of those weeks at home. Or if, like you said, you're from Chicago like me, there's a snowstorm happening in April and you know you need to get out of town. On a bad week, some of you may be able to identify with all three of these. And the most important piece to think about when focusing on the consumer is focusing on audience intent. Intent is where marketing is going, and digital really allows for us to go from guessing to knowing based on the changes in their behavior. With digital, we know the consumer's intent because we know what they're searching for, we know what articles they're reading, we know what videos they're watching, and then we can engage with them with the most relevant content and messaging. So in terms of tackling how we think about this, we've built a business framework that allows for us to look at your experiences through the eyes of your consumer and really allows for you to evaluate those different marketing activities from content all the way to media to really guide these marketing experiences through the consumer mindset when they have before they have, during, and after they have commercial intent. And that business framework is see, think, do, care. So instead of thinking about your goals, it actually puts the consumer first by laying out 4 different clusters of audience intent that represent different mindsets and stages that our customers have throughout the consumer journey. This intent framework puts the customer at the center instead of the content or the channel, and the communication can then feel more personalized for that user's intent. So the idea is to efficiently figure out how you can speak to someone in these 4 pillars while staying true to your value proposition. And the goal is to engage with that person while they're in that specific cluster instead of trying to move them in market. We, as company and marketers, need to be able to solve for all 4 of these intent clusters. So let's define that a little bit more. So C, your largest addressable audience with no commercial intent. They're not necessarily thinking about buying you right now. Think is your largest addressable qualified audience with some commercial intent. They may be in market. They're starting to think about planning a trip. Do, loads of commercial intent. They want to pull the trigger. They want to buy something. And care, these are the people you know the most. These are the people with 2 or more commercial transactions. So that's the broad use of it. Let's look at what it looks like for travel specifically. People who enjoy traveling to new and familiar destinations. That woman who's having a stressful week at work, this is where she sits. Think, there's a bank holiday coming up on Monday. You all of a sudden on Friday decide you want to go somewhere for the weekend. You don't know where, but you want it to be warm. They're in market. Do, these are people who you know are going to pull the trigger. They want to buy that flight. They know they're going somewhere. They know where they're going. And care, again, these are your repeat customers, your loyalty members, the people you have the most rich data on. So to bring this to life a little bit more, let's say that everyone in blue represents your largest addressable audience, C. What % of people do you think are in your do audience? We estimate about 10%. Now, while that doesn't seem very high, it's people who are ready to take action right now. And really, the most of advertisers spend the majority of their efforts, time, and resources against this. So green represents think, those who are in market. So now that you see this, I encourage you to go back and think about if your marketing efforts actually cover 100% of the audience intent. So the way to think about this and the way to evaluate it is through 3 different things: incredible experiences, relevant marketing, and impactful measurement. And apply that to across all of the different audience sectors. So content's really the foundation. What's the relevant experience you're trying to bring to them? If you're in the C arena, that may be informing, or that may be educating them or inspiring them. If you're in think, it's informing them or educating them, so on and so forth. Marketing is really targeting your audience by more precisely and holistically using consumer mindsets to guide planning. And then measurement, arguably the most important, making sure that you're mapping C tactics to C metrics, think tactics to think metrics. Or as we like to say, making sure you're not judging a fish's ability to climb a tree. So let's dive in. C is our largest addressable qualified audience, so you want to get them to notice you before they even start planning a trip. The best C content is content that I would watch, share, and enjoy, even if I have no intention of buying the brand. So I'm gonna play a video for you. This is HomeAway. It's a vacation rental company in the United States, and this is their manifesto of life spot. Maybe.
I read a study yesterday. It said that last year, more than half of us actually chose not to take our full vacations from our jobs. Question: don't you think it's crazy that so many of us go into work even when we don't need to be there? Times we could be on the beach buried in sand or traveling the earth. We spend it in the office, traveling from desk to desk, buried in paperwork. See, in this chaotic world, everything goes so fast. We're so busy, seems like everyone's middle name is multitask. But now before you go and act all holier than thou, how many extra tabs do you have open on your computer right now? See, we all need time to get away from the race, for our family, friends, for the sake of our mental state. Time to rewind, recharge, and reconnect. Not reporting to the office on emails that should be on redirect. Because life, ladies and gentlemen, is all about moments. No one in history has ever been able to hold on to one. Not a single soul. And you never get them back. See? There one goes. No do-over, no rewind, no DVD root menu to skip to a previous scene. Ask yourself, how many trips did you almost take? How many sights have you almost seen? How many moments have you lost thinking about the next one? Thinking that once you get this or get there, maybe that will be the best one. Life has taught me that all we will ever have is now. But let me be perfectly clear. I'm not saying to quit your job, even though I know you deserve a 6-month vacation twice a year. But how about small steps, short trips, with long dances, no distractions, spend time with family instead of coworkers, meditation instead of aggravation, replace our screensavers with sunrises, Palm Pilots with palm trees, jam copy machines with... Man, I really hate jam copy machines. The most precious thing we have in life are moments. Let's make the most of them before they disappear. Let's see the world while we still can, and cherish those while they're still here. Because when our lives are almost over, it won't matter how much money we made, or hours we worked, or times we got Employee of the Month. What we will look back on are the memories we made, the hours we spent with those we loved, and were we Father of the Month, Mother of the Year, Friend of a Lifetime. Holidays should be a time where we go away and come together. From now on, let's take our whole vacation and be present, creating memories that will last forever.
So that video is not only beautifully done, but it's very inspirational. One of the key facets of having great C content. So the next example is from Virgin America. Last year, Virgin America rolled out clever use of Google Maps Street View and called it Seat View, and allowed consumers the same swipeable ease that you use in Street View to really understand and see their immersive cabins. Then, to launch their flight service from San Francisco to Denver, they partnered with Google Cardboard and the Street View experience to bring that to virtual reality, which was wonderful. As you can see, even Sir Richard Branson enjoyed the virtual view. So before we move on to Think, I encourage you to think about 3 things when you're evaluating your C experience. We talked about being relevant, and a great way to do that is being culturally relevant and being in tune with what's going on right now. The second is rallying around a movement and a message. It's really powerful, much like the HomeAway piece. They're talking about taking your vacation, not booking with HomeAway. That's much more powerful than just a campaign. And then lastly, understand the barriers with your consumer. Virgin America noticed that they have a different experience than their competitive set, but their consumers didn't always understand that. So what they did is they actually brought the flying experience to the consumers through their virtual reality partnership. Think. So capturing someone when they're starting to shop around is ripe with people and data and can be very complex. And the piece that you really need to understand is how to make yourself memorable. So Airbnb's new campaign, Live There, differentiated the brand by appealing to people who wanted to have a trip that was traveling like the locals. They saw that too many rankings of must-see places across the internet were actually driven by tourists and tourist experience instead of locals, and so they wanted to understand how they could create an authentic experience for these people who wanted to live like a local. So these Airbnb guides were fueled and filtered by hosts themselves, which really allowed for visitors to truly understand what it would be like to live in that city day by day. So what makes an excellent Think strategy? Add the surprise and delight feature. Give the user a reason and something to come back to that they didn't necessarily expect from you. The Airbnb is a really powerful example because it took Airbnb and the relationship with their consumers beyond the simply transactional nature that they had had in the past. Leverage your rented channels. So we talk about owned channels, your app, your website, things that you're communicating with your customers on a regular basis. What about your social channels, your YouTube channels? Don't neglect those. People are looking for content there as well too. Finally, it's time to talk about bookings, what all of you probably are wanting to know. How do you drive bookings? So the Do audiences are really ready to purchase. The reality is that brands are doing a lot, or that travelers are doing a lot of cross-shopping across different brands, and they see a lot of competing offers. And a really good booking strategy makes the consumer feel good about the booking and prevents from future deflection. And the most important thing to consider is reducing the friction in that booking experience. So the consumer is actively wanting to engage with you. They want to book. They want to take action. So you need to mitigate the most friction that you possibly can by going through user experience audits, technology audits of your assets, and more to make sure that that frictionless experience is really there. So this is an example from Carnival Cruise. Carnival Cruise allows you to put a 24-hour hold on a cruise. What they did was they leveraged push notifications to let someone know that their cruise hold would be expiring and allowed them to extend it. Again, being very helpful here. Show of hands, how many of you know what Tinder is? Don't be shy, I know you know. It's the swipe left or right dating app for those of you living under a rock. So you're not the only ones who know what it is. Sephora, a global beauty advertiser, also knows what they are, knows what Tinder is. And they leveraged thousands of photographs of their products and put them in Tinder ads for a swipe to shop immersive experience. Pretty creative, huh? So going back to my comment about friction, recognize what a user is looking for and give that to them. Get them there quickly. Be helpful. The most obvious example is search. Obviously, I'm from Google, and that's the most democratic medium that there is. Someone is actually telling you what they want. You have the ability to then serve them specific copy. But what about the landing page experience? Making sure you're getting them to the right place. Be helpful with that. Don't just look for inspiration within travel. Look at other mediums, like the Sephora example, other travel or other industries outside of that, and get inspiration and drive some creativity to drive action. Lastly, let's talk about care, or what I like to call exclusive dating. You've been on a couple dates, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out if you're gonna be loyal to them. Very narrow window. Same with loyalty. About 66% of travelers actually are prompted to make a decision on their next trip right when they return home from vacation. By taking care of your customers, you really increase the likelihood of them coming back to book with you. So Nike's a great example for this. They actually saw that they had a community in and of themselves and a lot of loyalty that was happening within their core consumers. So they took action on that, and they made an actual community called the Nike Run Club, and they provided them with a number of training plans to really take an interest in their consumers' interests, showing that they care. A lot of brands talk about their great customer service, but they don't show it. The best brands don't need to show it because their consumers talk for them. Which brings up my next point, leverage your network. I realize we're in a room full of airlines, so no pun intended, but making sure that you're actually talking to those hand raisers who've said, I like your brand, talk to me. People that are visiting your site, people that are visiting your social channels. You'd be surprised with the number of brands that we actually see leave those people hanging for communication. And lastly, you know the travel journey is never fully complete. Make sure you're keeping that dialogue with them open when they return from their last trip. So with that, I encourage you to take a look at all of your marketing efforts, not just digital specific, and think about the different intent clusters that you have. And think about if you have incredible experiences, relevant marketing, and impactful measurement. We have the power to be incredible advertisers. So I encourage you to take this framework and look at your marketing activities and market. Thank you.